This is Otaku No Video, Episode 32, F, A Tale of Memories, Episodes 7 through 9. So we've been watching more and more F. We're now at the three-quarter mark, which is certainly chugging along. Things are certainly progressing plot-wise. I had a lot of things in this group that I just was confused by. Things like how the silver-haired guy refused to believe that Chihiro's memory condition can change. Kei got really, really annoying. Some of the imagery is... I think they're getting a lot better with the imagery, but it's there's still definitely a lot of fiddling around with the animation not quite working. And I don't know, it's not quite as... It's getting better, but it's still not quite working for me.
Yeah, Yeah. Same way. I think there are a lot of... And granted, we haven't gotten through to the end yet, but there were some other things that really, it took you long enough to flesh out some of the other things that we've talked about within the show, so there's no way we're going to get to these other ideas. And, so I don't... I don't think it's going to fully flesh out what it could have been, but what it is a little bit incomplete.
Well, it's definitely evolved into basically a straight romance.
Yeah, that too.
Which is not quite what I expected, and that's fine. I mean, it's actually evolving into a fairly solid romantic story. I really love the stuff with Miyako and how they establish her character, because I think she now makes sense. But I was hoping it would go a little deeper on a lot of things, particularly dealing with Chihiro and so forth, and it's just not getting there.
I don't know. I felt that they finally brought up the questions I was bringing up when they revealed Chihiro's memory loss thing.
Well, but I thought all that stuff was pretty well established.
Yeah, but they never discussed it.
That's true.
Which... I enjoy that, but at the same time, you probably should have done that in episode 3.
Well, one of the things that confuses me is, like they ask this question of whether Chihiro can do anything in her condition. Then they demonstrate that she can with the novel. And then they keep going back to the question of, what is the utility of her life at this point? It's like, what?
Yeah, I agreed. I think there's too much... Well, no. I think there's an acceptable, although albeit annoying amount of rehashing for almost anything, but they never take it in the direction that we actually want it to be talked about.
Yeah.
So, which is really, really annoying. It just feels like they don't have much of a grip on where this is going, and this goes back to... in my opinion, the way that I see Japanese productions carried out, in that they don't realize usually that they, that's a motif, that right there, or, what about this logic, Yeah,
absolutely. And there's just, there are a lot of neat images, there's a shot of Chihiro all fragmented, which I really like, and there's a shot of Chihiro sort of fading away into black and white, which I really like, and is very effective for what they're trying to get across at that point. But it's kind of overdone. I kind of feel like the show expects you to have gone through the visual novel.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with the Transparent Nun, I just don't get a lot of what she's there for. And at this point, I think she's just there as sort of someone to ask questions that no one else is going to ask. And I'm sure she makes more sense in the visual novel, but she just isn't making sense here. And a lot of the character relationships and so forth, it feels like there's context there that they just sort of assume that you understand.
That's certainly true, but I still don't feel like there are things that are just completely unaddressed, though.
Agreed there. There's just, I don't know, there's aspects to it that feel... like characters will reference past events as though you know what happened. and
Yeah.
and in a way that seems important and that they never address. And it's that kind of stuff that feels frustrating. Where a good example actually is like Nia Under 7, where there's stuff that happened in the past that's never explicitly explained, but you get enough past references and some monologues and stuff to explain what's going on, so you understand what's going on and you don't feel frustrated. With this, there's stuff going on that I feel frustrated about not understanding why this character reacted in this way in this situation.
Yeah, and I think this takes it back to what our initial responses were, I think, last time with the whole, we don't care about these characters, like, there's no reason to... You put a little girl in front of me for 40 minutes after 2 episodes, and you expect me to feel sorry for her for what reason? You know, gosh.
And, I mean, I think that they've done a better job up to this point of establishing those characters now. So, like, I now have a better grip on the Miyako, Hirono, Kei triangle, and I have a better grip on the Renji and Chihiro story. And, you know, it all works. The problem is we're 9 episodes in, and I feel like that could have been much better established early on. And you know, at this point, you know, okay, I want to know what happens next, but I'm certainly not pulled in or gripped, and I feel like they've just, I don't want to say dropped the ball, but that it's just, they haven't done what they could have done.
Yeah, that's certainly true, especially when they litter the screen with all these things.
Yeah, and, I mean, I will give them credit for the fact that the characters now are pretty realistic, and, like, despite not understanding some of these past things and so forth, they're pretty understandable, and I no longer feel as lost about who the heck these characters are anymore. So, like, for example, I really loved how when Miyako finally reconnects with Hirono, and after all that trauma she went through, she's lighthearted again. And she, like, doesn't even... It's like it didn't really matter to her, which makes total sense given her character. And I like those little things, that she doesn't freak out. That's just not the way she is. So, you know, I feel like those things are at least being handled well now.
Yeah, some things like that. I did like the shonen speech in episode 8.
Yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere and was rather awesome.
Yeah, and same thing with the whole ruins of the past, where the angel is talking and to Miyako, and it's like, yeah, I think we figured this one out on our own.
Yeah, agreed there. And I'm also I was impressed initially, although now that I realize it a little bit more, I understand where this is coming from. But I was impressed at the end of episode 9 they have sex.
I don't know that I was impressed, if not just like, okay.
Well, that typically doesn't happen in anime romances. But again, this being an adult visual novel, I guess it's not too surprising.
Yeah, I don't know. It just, I guess in some ways I was probably more relieved that relationship actually took hold to some degree.
Agreed, absolutely. And I guess that's kind of where I was going, where I'm impressed that